Hey there everyone, it's GG Sober Sun. We've got kind of an overcast day. I see the sun up there. Just kind of trying to peek through there. But still quite lovely in the mid to upper 70s. So worth it. May the 6th from the 24 Hours a Day book. AA Thought for the Day. I've noticed that the ones who do most for AA are not in the habit of boasting about it. The danger of building myself up too much is that if I do, I'm in danger of having a fall. That pattern of thought goes with drinking. If one side of a boat gets too far up out of the water, it's liable to tip over. Building myself up and drinking go together. Yeah. One leads to the other. So if I'm going to stay sober, I've got to keep small. Have I got the right perspective on myself? My ego is not my amigo, as I've heard people say in the rooms. And I know one time in particular, this was when I was stationed in Korea, my roommate and off-base apartment mate said to me one time, because I was pretty proud of myself that I was smart enough that given any problem I could work through it and kind of figure out an approach and reason through it. So I thought, and of course all of it would be out loud, processing it out loud. And my roommate said, "Jim, you don't know everything about everything." And I thought, gee, that's a weird thing to say. It's a weird thing to just say. And my immediate thought was, he's just a dummy. He just doesn't have my brain power, so of course he's gonna say something smart alecky like that. But in effect, he was saying, Jim, you're not as smart as you think you are. And the older I've got, the more life experiences that I've had, that I have, the more I realize how little I know about what makes the world work. And the less sort of, Father Richard Rohr, who wrote a book about the 12 steps called Breathing Underwater, Spirituality and the 12 Steps. He talks about tribalism and black and white thinking, and he talks also a lot about the mysticism of faith, in that it's okay not to know. That's part of its wonder. That's part of its, basically, if you think you know who God is and what God is about and what God will do in any given situation, your God is too small. And you're bound to be disappointed and hurt, because I don't know about you or about your God, but my God reserves the right to do what he wants to do and what is good and proper, and it might not seem good and proper to me in the moment. So back to service. If I'm serving to be seen as good, and people aren't acknowledging my service, then I'm going to, or if they're, there's one guy locally who he serves at central office several shifts a week as far as I know, and he does talk it up. He just says, hey, we need more people at central office. We have holes in the schedule for people to serve, so we need more people. Anyway, and he was on the board for the Recovery Clubhouse, the Alano Club here locally, for many, many years. He may still be on some capacity. But there was a guy who was kind of an old bleeding deacon, like, this is how it's supposed to go, who used to bust his chops mercilessly. And I just thought, oh my gosh, every time the guy would do something, he would just pick it apart. And it's like, if you're serving for props and to be seen as a good guy or a woman of service or whatever, you're probably going to be disappointed. But if you're doing it purely to get out of self, because if you're doing it for props and recognition, you're doing it for selfish reasons. And or we're trying to talk ourselves up, and that is still self-serving, and that's drunken behavior. And some people were of service when they were drinking, and so they shouldn't stop just because now they're sober. They can just shift their focus from being one of, I want to be the center of attention at the party, so I want to adjust everything to my liking. The part after How It Works, where it talks about we're like the actor trying to be the director. Doesn't say we're never the director, but it's saying we're the actor trying to be the director, trying to adjust everything, trying everything to go our way. And that's going to lead to hopelessness and futility. I'm not sure if that's what it says, but that's exactly what it leads to. Meditation for the day. The way sometimes seems long and weary. So many people today are weary. So many people today are weary. The weariness of others must often be shared by me. The weary and the heavy laden, when they come to me, should be helped to find the rest that I have found. There is only one sure cure for world weariness, and that is turning to spiritual things. In order to help bring about the turning of the weary world to God, I must dare to suffer, dare to conquer selfishness in myself, and dare to be filled with spiritual peace in the face of all the weariness of the world. That's a lot of weariness. Dare to suffer, dare to conquer selfishness in myself, and dare to be filled with spiritual peace. I'm all about being filled with spiritual peace. I don't know if I dare to suffer. I dare to do the next right thing. That's for sure. And if that brings about suffering, then I know that suffering's for good, for my growth. And I'm all about it. I can't think of any one thing in particular, but prayer for the day. I pray that I may be a help to discouraged people. I pray that I may have the courage to help bring about what the weary world needs, but does not know how to get. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Just to be an example, a help to discouraged people, and to be cheerful. You know, I've never been the type of person that says, I'm going to give you the unvarnished truth. Because I know sometimes how easy it is to slip into our own delusion about who we are and what we are in the world. You know, sometimes if we're in a hopeless situation, and of course alcohol fueled the ability to live in this delusional world of who I am and what I'm about. You know, it's like if somebody gives me grief. I heard it today. Do you know who I am? somebody, do you know who I am? You don't talk to me like that. And alcohol enabled me to live in that delusional world only because my situation was hopeless. Not helpless, but it was hopeless. I drank myself into a state of hopeless state of mind and body, as it says in the big book. But my circumstances brought me to myself, just like the prodigal son. It's like, oh, wait a minute. You know, people that I really like choose not to drink. And they seem to have a pretty happy life. And they don't seem to be so victimized by life circumstances as I do. Maybe I need to go ahead and go hang out with those AA people. And it was my buddy Tim from high school who had the courage to invite me to my very first AA meeting when we were 16 years old, and he was almost 2 years sober at that point. But I can't imagine the courage it took. And, you know, the message didn't take at that time, but I didn't have to go too far down the scale before the message did take. I only drank for another 8 years or so and survived one suicide attempt in high school. But thank God. And thank God for AA. Keep coming back, y'all. Thanks for letting me share. Look up, aim up, and rise up. Love you.